Welcome to another episode of the 24th Floor. Richard Denson flying solo. At least for the top of this show, we are starting things in the month of May, and may the odds be ever in your favor. And if that's whether you're a fan of the Grizzlies or you're a fan of another NBA team like myself, I'm a Hawks fan, we want to kick things off with welcoming back a friend of the program, Dr. Rusty Whitten. Welcome to the show again, my friend.
Thank you. Appreciate you having me, man. Glad to be back.
And like I said, we're on the eve. We're about to talk. The NBA draft lottery is coming up, and of course, it's something that a lot of Grizzlies fans have been looking forward to ever since they kind of waved the white flag when they traded Jaren Jackson.
Sure.
So Rusty, before we even get into like our simulations, how are you feeling about the draft lottery?
Yeah, I'm glad it's here. Right? Like, it's been what we've been looking forward to since we obviously mailed it in when we traded Jaren, right? We've been looking forward to this day. It's finally upon us. Real quick plug, Sunday we're going to have a watch party at Grind City Brewing watching the lottery, so y'all come out and hang out at 2 o'clock for that. But I'm glad it's here because we'll finally know who we're going to pick, or at least where we're going to pick, where we're going to start from, and then we'll see what ZK does from there. So I guess relief, long story long. Yeah. I'm relieved that it's finally here. So, you know, with anything, they call us like sickos, whether it's like wrestling or basketball or football, people who really the nitty gritty in the deep. So for the NBA draft sickos, they use this thing called Tankathon. If we can pull that up on our screen. As we are working to pull that up on our screen. The Tankathon thing is basically a simulation where you kind of like simulate what happens in the lottery, because the lottery obviously is so many teams, and it's just like how you play the Mega Millions for the lottery, you can play the draft lottery. And so with the Grizzlies, I didn't ran this simulation a whole bunch of times. They didn't come out. And as we are waiting for it, let's just kind of as we wait for the Tankathon thing to get up, let's just say the Grizzlies land at number 4. Yeah. What do you think would probably be the target and everything? Because I know we talk so much on this program. The consensus top 4 is AJ DeBonsa, Darren Peterson, Cam Boozer, Caleb Wilson. If the Grizz get number 4, where do you think we would? Yeah, so I have been on Tankathon more than I probably should over the last few weeks, much like yourself. Like, you know, it's part of my daily routine now, have my coffee, hit a couple Tankathon spins and see what we get. At 4, I might be a bit controversial here. There's 2 players that I would go for. Obviously, for higher, I'm a big Cam Boozer guy. We talked about that before the show. But I like Caleb Wilson's upside. Some people call him Baby KG, some of that kind of stuff, but we haven't seen a whole lot. He also has some flares of Jaren Jackson Jr., so he could fit in here. I'm going to go out on a limb here, and I'm going to say if the Grizzlies are 4th and I'm Zach Kleiman, I am calling Keaton Wagler from the University of Illinois. I like his game. It mimics a lot of what Hallie and SGA do with just getting to the mid-range, letting the game come to them. They don't force the ball. And if you're telling me that you can get a guy like that can comfortably run point, get Cedric Howard off the ball, let him kind of move around, and the 2 of them be the backcourt, I would take Keaton Wagler as high as 4. You said you draw comparisons to Keaton Wagler and Tyrese Halliburton. It's a bold move. I said it's there. Like, that's the C. That's kind of what I see his future be. I like it. I did like Keaton a lot in the tournament, man. I mean, here, all right, we got it up. Let's hit that draft lottery simulator. Hit it. Hit the button. Hey, look at that. Okay, so all right, let's stay right there. So in this simulation, I'm glad that my Hawks would get the number 2 pick right afterward. But let's say, okay, in this simulation, the Grizzlies get the number 1 pick. So what do you do if you're Zach Kleiman and you have the number 1 pick? I think this is where we're going to disagree. I'm going Cam Boozer. We talked about it off air. We've had so much what ifs with this Grizz Next Gen. That I want the sure thing. And as close to a sure thing in this draft to me is Cam Boozer. The game is there. He's able to get his shots. He's been a double-double, a bucket, a winner at every single level. I don't know that he has the highest ceiling in this draft, but he has the highest floor. And if you compare that with Zach Edey, Gigi, and Ced, what we already have cooking, I just think Cam Boozer's game translates so well to what Memphis wants to do. I hear the AJ DeBansta. I think he could be the best player in this draft. I'm just more sure thing. If I'm Zach Kleiman and this happens, Cam Boozer, you're a Memphis Grizzly. So 2 things I'll say about this. Cam Boozer reminds me so much of his dad in the way, and maybe that makes sense because learning under his dad, but when I look at his ceiling in the NBA, I look at him, he's just going to be just as good as his dad, just slightly better. But that's not a bad thing. His dad was a multi-time All-Star, a guy who was on Team USA. So Cam, like, I get it. It's the safe pick. But the thing with AJ, to my other point, is I think the NBA is driven by really good wings. If you have a really good wing player, you have a higher ceiling to win it all compared to if you have a guard. Because think about it. For the Timberwolves, Anthony Edwards, they've been in the conference finals 2 years in a row. Might be 3 if they get past San Antonio. And then, I mean, you obviously have Tatum and Brown. The Celtics won a championship. We know with the Durant, like, even though Steph Curry was the face of the Warriors team, once they got Durant, Durant was the best player of the team. You see Kawhi Leonard with the Spurs and the Raptors, and LeBron, obviously. Yeah. Wings really drive the NBA.
Sure.
And I think AJ DeBanza has the play where if you take a guy like him and he ends up reaching what he's supposed to be, you're standing at the top for a long time and you're not having to fall off. And that's, I think, the thing with Ja Morant, because the Grizzlies were a team that their best player was a guard, not necessarily a small guard, but with the way Ja plays, more leans in on athleticism, because when you just sit back and let Ja shoot, then you have tour dates.
Sure,
exactly. With Ja putting up tour dates. So I think if the Grizzlies lean into, okay, we want our best player to be a wing, and that would be DeBanza, then that's where you go. And I think with this draft, because they have 2 picks, you're hoping you get your next franchise player.
So a couple counterpoints that I can see the DeBanza thing. I think the potential's there. The guy's uber athletic. He was on a bad team. Does he know how to win? Does he know how to contribute to winning? We'll find out. I think I don't want to overthink it, and I'm not going to be upset if we draft AJ DeBanza. Like, I think he can help this team be a lot better. What I see, though, is a big lineup. You were talking about how the Knicks kind of bullied your Hawks out of the playoffs.
Yeah.
If you can have Cam Boozer at the 3, playing a big 3. You could have Santi at the 4, Edie at the 5. There's a world where we maybe get like a Mo Johnson from Michigan. It could also be a Julius Randle-esque type 4 beside those guys.
He might come back.
In. But that is a massive lineup with a lot of size, rebounding capabilities. And I think Boozer is better than what he's getting credit for. He's more athletic than his dad. I think it's been more of a system thing. Like, I think there's a lot of untapped potential there. So I think he's better than that. But I'm not going to sit here and argue that A.J. DeBanza is not the most athletic freako guy in this draft. And I think he's going to make himself he could be the guy in this draft and will make a GM, keep his job that much longer.
Do you think there's a situation that could happen in this draft where Grizzlies fans are disappointed? Like, what would be, I guess, worst case situation for the draft lottery? You know what I'm saying? So if we come in, would it just be a bad thing if the Grizzlies stay put at what would be if they
6 is where we're at now?
Is that bad?
It depends on how it falls, right? Like, if you can score a guy like a Keaton Wagler at 6, that's a massive win.
Okay.
Darius Acuff, I'm kind of back and forth on.
That's who a lot of people want.
I get it. He's a bit undersized. He doesn't play a lick of defense. And I understand that's the system. I understand that's people trying to, he's just doing offense for Arkansas. I get that. But I saw enough tape that it makes me a little bit nervous.
Yeah.
I could justify it at 6. But I think for me, and I was going to ask you this, like, who are the players that scare you the most? And for me, it's Nate Ament from Tennessee.
Oh, yes. I feel like that's American Zachary Risachet.
That's a guy that's going to get a GM fired because he's going to have a great combine. He's very athletic, but the tape doesn't lie. And when he's on the court, it just doesn't translate. And so that, to me, staying at 6 or even worst case scenario, falling to like 8 and having to pick a Nate Ament, again, there's guys that I would reach for there. Braden Burris from Arizona comes to mind. Karim Lopez is a guy I'd reach for at 8. But worst case scenario would be, and I think this is what happened. You remember a couple years ago when we drafted Zaire Williams, right? I think the pick was Franz Wagner or Josh Giddey, and we were convinced that's who it was going to be. And I think Zach Kleiman was too. And then when both of those guys were off the board, we panicked and drafted Zaire. And I think that would be the only way we would get Nate Ament. But to me, that's worst case scenario, man.
Okay, last thing I got to say before we have to get you out of here. The Grizzlies have 2 draft picks. Obviously, they wish that they had 2 shots in the lottery because they were hoping the Orlando Magic didn't make the playoffs. The Magic made the playoffs. That's a whole nother story. Do you think the Grizzlies stay put, or do you think that they trade up? They use that second Magic pick as cachet to move up.
Absolutely. I think they're moving up. I do not think they pick at 16. I think they try and move up. Zach Kleiman flew all the way to New Zealand to watch Karim Lopez play for the New Zealand Breakers. I think that's kind of a, hey, writing on the wall type thing here. Like, this is one of our guys. And he's always traded up. Cedric Howard was his guy. He traded up for Cedric Howard. Like, he goes and gets the guys that he wanted. Again, he wanted to get Wagner or Josh Giddey, but landed with Zaire. I think we trade up. I think we chase one of those guys. I would be very shocked if we're still sitting at 16.
Well, we will see what happens. Rusty, we always appreciate you having on the program. Tell folks where we can catch the draft party that you're having, or draft lottery party, I should say.
Yeah, so we're going to do both. So come out to Grind City Brewing on Sunday at 2 p.m. If the Grizzlies get a top 5 pick, Grind City is doing $5 beers for the afternoon. So we're rooting for the Grizzlies to get a top 5 pick and for $5 beers. It'll be a Grind City Brewing downtown. Beautiful location. They just opened the amphitheater there. Come hang out with us on Sunday.
And as always, get your plugs in and what you got going on Bluff City Media.
That's it, man. The 2 Bucks Sports Show is 11 a.m. Central on Bluff City Media's YouTube channel. I am Rusty _ or actually on Twitter, I'm Buckets _BCM. Give me a follow. I'll break down all the Grizzlies and NBA injuries. I talk about the Grizz ad nauseum, Mississippi State sports, all that, but Buckets _BCM on X.
Rusty Whitten, the doctor of physical therapy. We're going to take a quick break on 24th Floor. We'll be back after this.